500 pages each. And most of what Mr. Gandhi has to say has little to do with politics. He was very preoccupied with diet and good health. He was kind of your early version of Oprah Winfrey. In fact, he resembled her in some ways then. But when he was in jail, and he spent a lot of time in jail, you know, he wrote a lot of letters, and most of the letters consisted of, I weigh 92.5 pounds, I weigh 90 pounds, I weigh 91.25 pounds, and that's what it read like. Of course, in terms of weight, Oprah was in a different category. In terms of, no, it's true, but in terms of preoccupation with weight, Gandhi was very preoccupied with it. But of course, there was a lot of politics in his writing as well. And most of you know he led a movement which was called nonviolent resistance. And some people, I think, they took the term from Henry Thoreau, the American writer, and they called his movement passive resistance. And Gandhi didn't like that at all because he felt that nonviolent resistance was the most active form of resistance there was. And so his cousin, I think it was, coined another term to describe his movement. He called it Satyagraha. And Satyagraha, he translated, I like the translation, it's called hold on to the truth. Hold on to the truth. I think it's a good image. You grasp, you cling to the truth. Hold on to the truth. And I think that's what we need to do. We need to hold on to the truth that what Israel has done to the Palestinians is wrong. And it's indefensible. We need to hold on to the truth that the diplomatic settlement of the conflict is within reach. But it's Israel backed by the United States that's blocking a settlement based on international law. If we learn how to wield the weapon of truth, if we learn how to wield the weapon of truth, as it's recorded in the findings of the human rights community, and if we learn how to wield the weapon of justice, as it's embodied in the uncontroversial principles of international law. And I would want to stress the uncontroversial principles of international law. All 15 judges in the International Court of Justice, all 15 judges ruled that Israeli settlements in the occupied Palestinian territories are illegal under international law. These are not controversial issues. We have to hold on to the truth, and we have to hold on to the weapon of justice, the uncontroversial principles of international law. And if we learn how to wield the weapons of truth and justice, and we show a little bit of fortitude, then a settlement of the Israel-Palestine conflict is within reach. A settlement, a reasonable settlement that respects the dignity of all parties to the conflict. It allows everybody at the end to lead a proud, peaceful, and productive life. That's the goal. It's not to vanquish. It's not to defeat, to humiliate. It's not to engage in bashing one side or another. It's, as I said, to hold on to the truth. That also means not to sugarcoat the truth, to make it more palatable to some people who find the facts offensive. No, we're not going to sugarcoat the truth, especially especially in a college audience as we have here, everybody knows that the truth is often a bitter pill to swallow. But we want to know the truth, and we want to defend the truth. And we also want a just settlement based on the uncontroversial principles of international law. If you're willing to support truth, and you're willing to support justice, a settlement that allows for everyone to preserve their human dignity, then the late Professor Edward Said, at the end of his life, a Palestinian literary critic, but also political activist, he used to like to quote, at the end of his life, the Caribbean poet Aimé Césaire, that there's room for everyone at the rendezvous of victory. And we should bear in mind that there's room for everyone at the rendezvous of victory. Just be reasonable. Be reasonable. Don't turn a blind eye to what's happening, and accept those basic principles of justice. And then, if you're willing to do that, personally, I couldn't care less what you call yourself. You can, like Mr. Goldstone, if you want, so far as I'm concerned, and it's a personal judgment, call yourself a Zionist, call yourself an anti-Zionist. I couldn't care less. The important thing is, where do you stand on those basic principles of truth and justice? If you're willing to embrace them as your own, which is what Mr. Goldstone did, and you can be sure it was not an easy thing for him to do. But at the end of the day, he stood by what his professional avowals commanded him to do. If you're willing to stand by those principles, you can call yourself whatever you want. So far as I'm concerned, there's room for you and everyone, as long as you're reasonable, at the rendezvous of victory. Thank you. Respectful audience, and I may have detained you longer than you would have preferred. And so I have an iron rule of government, if I might call it that, which is, insofar as the audience was so respectful of me, now it's my obligation to be respectful of you, in particular those of you who sat through many things which you might have found objectionable, but you stayed and you listened and you were respectful. And so as a rule, I always say I would prefer to hear from dissenters first, people who have a dissenting question or would like to make a dissenting statement. I would like to hear from them first, and also to promise that we'll do everything in our power that you have the right to make your statement without any kind of disrespect shown you. So if you would like to show the courage to come up and first, and you have a dissenting statement or question, you can go first.
All right, how we're going to do this is you're going to raise your hand. There'll be a mic pass. We'll take a question from downstairs and a question from upstairs. Please remember to be respectful. You can please ask questions, not necessarily making statements. So we're going to go ahead and start.
So are there any dissenters?